So next question I want to talk about a little bit is, especially for discretionary traders. I think everybody on this panel is kind of much more discretionary. Whenever I hear discretionary traders like describe their strategy to me, and then when I actually see them trading, it's like two completely different things. Like my view is that the real edge that most people develop over time is less about their strategy and much more about their technique, right? About what is it that they, what little tricks of the market that they find about price levels or entries or their own personalities that help them adjust and, win more, lose less, or lose smaller, win bigger. Tracy, what do you think about, do you agree that there's a lot of technique rather than just pure strategy in what you do, or at least some technique over the years that you've developed?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, I kind of think they're one and the same, right? Because your
strategy is like, I'm going to go long when 200 SMA breaks. That's it. Sort of like, very hard and fast rule that they can be logically encoded. And my point is that a lot of times people say, I'm going to go long, but then it comes below. I'm going to be actually a buyer because it's a dip, not a retrace. And then I'm going to add, like, there's just lots of nuances that people do around their core idea that isn't really the core idea. Like, that's why a computer cannot replicate a proprietary trader a lot of times, because they're very literal, and human beings are much more nuanced about that. That's the nuance, I think, is in the technique. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it depends. If I'm trading equities, I have more of, if it breaks this SMA, I'm, going to short it, or,
you're much more systematic.
That's more of a strategy trade. Whereas if I'm trading futures markets, probably more of a technique trade.
Huh. Interesting. So do you think it's because of your own personal breadth of knowledge of the commodities markets, because you've been around, like, everybody is an equity trader in a sense, because we're all shareholders in America in a sense, but like, you've been sort of physically on the floors, you've dealt with this market, you intimately understand how they move. Do you think that's where the technique comes in a little bit? You've seen the price action over so many years.
Well, yeah, I mean, that just comes with staring at the screen for years, right? Yeah. Exactly. And knowing kind of how each market trades. I mean, I think each market, each futures market, each product has kind of their own personality, if that makes sense, on how they trade.
Yes, exactly. I think that's something that people totally, like when people say to me, I don't differentiate. You can differentiate between equities. Apple is different from MicroStrategy. I mean, there are human beings behind those tickers that create very, very different dynamics. Do you, Jimmy? Do you agree with that? That there's more technique than meets the eye in a lot of trading that people do.
For sure. And I love like talking to other traders and watching other traders trade to see all the different styles and how they do it. And, I know there's going to be some things that my mind won't be able to do, but I take little pieces from other people's techniques, like successful guys that I've met through the years. And I'm like, wow, look at the way he does that. Look at the way, how he approaches the game. Look at how he, just in the morning, how he goes through all the different information. He's got his, I learn, I never stop learning, and I'm pretty old. I've been doing this for 30 years, but I'm still always seeking that knowledge, even from young dudes that are on Twitter now that, have different styles and then I blended all of the different techniques from all the different, guys that I've met over the years and formed my own way. But you know what? That's really a personal journey, I think. I
think it is. That's really it. Trading is a personal, and technique is really a personal thing. So, Tony, I trade live virtually every day. And what I was going to say is, there are lots of days where I'm not going to do the same thing. Like, here's my strategy. I always go, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this. And then I don't do it. Or maybe I do something different because, I see something different in the market and sometimes I can't really articulate, I can't quite articulate because that's where the difference comes in. And then the other thing I was going to ask you, because especially you about this is, for example, last couple of days, right? I'm totally managing this whole, Shink Fest with TraderFest. And I'm trading normal, mini contracts live. I said, we're only trading micros. And I did that because I did not want to trade to go bad and screw me up mentally. Like I really needed to be in a good frame of mind. And I kind of like, do you think that that's a really important part of trading, that there's no fixed rules. They're just guidelines, and you have to be very flexible around those things.
So a couple things. There's a lot to kind of go back and touch on here. So first of all, I think rules are meant for a strategy. I think when you talk about trading rules, I think you build intuition, like what Jimmy and Shai were talking about. And so for me, I don't look at trading rules as much as I look at trading instincts or intuition. The rules are for my strategy. And so my strategy is pretty systematic. I would say it is systematic, but my technique is discretionary because the market environments change. I saw one of the comments saying, what time frame should we use to determine the exact trend? So for me, it all starts with the daily. So if I think that we're in a bullish environment or a bearish environment or a sideways market environment,
right,
that will determine how I execute my strategy. So just because I get a short signal, let's go back to NASDAQ or S&P, in a bull environment, am I going to trade it the same every time? The answer is no, because I'm not going to sell a new high in the S&P or the NASDAQ just because I have a mean reversion indication on a 60, 30-minute or 3-minute chart. And so I might trade
bands, right?
I might trade 3 versus I'll trade a 30 lot if it's a mean reversion back into trend because the primary trend is still bullish and I'd rather be long than short. And so there's that hidden bias as well of like kind of what's going on in the market. And so that's why we go back to position sizing. It matters so much because that's where the technique is made. I've always felt that the best executor of the strategy will supersede any strategy. I mean, you look at every single prop desk out there where they will sit next to somebody and they'll teach them the same exact thing. Why do they have different results along the whole line? Why is everybody not the same? Well, it's not the same because guys in different situation handle things differently. So in the moment, they're able to do what they have to do to get the most out of it or to lose the least amount. And so that's why I will always believe technique is better than strategy. And the final thing I want to say is I totally agree with Jimmy and how there's so many, young people out there and guys like Jimmy and myself. Just because we've been doing this a long time doesn't mean that we know everything. Doesn't mean that we're right about what we do. I learn a lot from some people that have been trading for just a couple of years and I see their success and I'm like, wow, that's really cool that they're doing that. And I'm very, I'm happy for them. I root for them and I try to learn something from them as well. So I'm very open to that because I know I don't know everything. And I never claim to, and I think that it's important to have an open mind so my technique can get better.
Yeah, I'll give you one better. When I teach my strategy to people, most of the people in my room trade the strategy better than I do. So, there you go. They have better technique, they have better patience, they have better understanding and nuances of the market. So there you go. It's the same. It's my ideas, but they're doing them better, which is great to see. I love to see that.